Taylor Swift is a link builder. There were rumors that she would get engaged. Our client said, let's give them a free wedding venue. And then we got them 50 links. That's digital PR.
Wix Studio, one end-to-end web creation platform for your agency to deliver exceptional work with absolute efficiency.
Managing multiple clients or large websites? Automate your SEO with Ali AI. Start your free trial now.
Thank you very much. First, a little bit of an elephant in the room. My name and face is not the name and face that is on your program. This talk was meant to be delivered by James Brockbank, who is Digital Ops MD. Unfortunately, he cannot make it. I've had to step in, but that means that if you disagree with anything I'm about to say, I can give you James's email afterwards. But if you do love it, then you're also free to come and chat to me. We're going to start with a bit of a home truth. And that is that Google is ignoring lots of the links that you have earned. And if you're working in-house, what I really mean by this is the links that you are paying an agency to earn for you. Now, if we kind of cast our minds back to May this year, bit of a stressful time in SEO, we had a really big documentation leak that pertained to Google's algorithm. And one thing that really stood out for me in all this, there was a lot of really interesting takeaways, but one thing that really stood out was an attribute called an anchor mismatch demotion. And what this anchor mismatch demotion was intended to do was demote, so ignore, any anchors, which is Google's word for links, that had some kind of a mismatch between the source and the target. So I spent way too much time in May and also June this year looking through this documentation. And when we cross-referenced it with other modules, what we found was that this is most likely some kind of a relevance mismatch. So the mismatch between the relevance of a page that is linking and the page that is being linked to. And you may be sat here thinking, okay, so what? Like a few ignored links, what's the harm? It could actually be causing a lot of harm. Sometimes, in quite rare cases, relevant links could be really harming your site's organic visibility. So this is a bit of a special case. This is a site that I worked on from a consulting perspective, and this is a site in the medical space. And they've been on a really great growth journey. And in 2018 and 2019, they saw really severe drops in traffic. And we're talking like almost overnight drops in significant portions of traffic, like we saw with the helpful content update. And then we had a couple little recoveries, but since pretty much 2020, the site has not been able to see the levels of traffic that it had seen previously. And interestingly, it had sister sites, almost identical in Germany, in Spain, and Italy, across the EU, that hadn't seen these issues at all. And we began to dig in what the differences were between these sites. And we began a bit of a working hypothesis that it was something to do with links. And we've begun to really dig into the link profile of this site. And what we've got here is a table. So the table contains all of the topics that we managed to extract from the link profile, and also how frequently these came up, but also how frequently they showed up in the site's content. And what we saw was what we're going to call some questionable topics, and I'll come back to that wording in a second. And so there was a lot of mentions of sex, orgasm, human sexual activity, that were very overrepresented within the link profile. So this might have been digital PR activity, looking to gain some really sort of attention-grabbing headlines. But these weren't actually the core focus of the website. Probably about 1% of the website talked about sexual health, as you might expect a medical website to do. But these topics were being very much overrepresented in the site's link profile. And when we looked at the topics that were most relevant to the site, that the site really wanted to rank for keywords related to that, we saw that these were really underrepresented within the link profile. So topics such as medicine, infection, disease, these were really underrepresented within the site's links. So what we had here was we had the site's content that was painting a picture of an all-round, very serious medical website. And the site's link profile was painting a completely different picture, which was a website that was solely about sex. And when I come back to say about questionable topics, of course it is valid for this website to have some links that talk about sex, but having these in such vast quantities presented a lot of issues. I looked through this site's backlink profile and it was a journey. I saw things I didn't want to see. I learned things that I didn't want to know. And I had conversations on Slack that I never want to have in a workplace ever again. And a lot of these links were showing up as spam, it was showing up as toxic, and they were being marked as porn. And one thing that we also learned from Google's algorithm leak was the existence of a specific porn demotion. So some kind of an algorithmic suppression for sites that Google was deeming as pornographic. And while we don't know for certain, we had a bit of an inkling that this might have been what was at play here. And so really what was happening, and we see happening for a lot of different websites, is that irrelevant links can be skewing the topicality of your link profile. So you might have content suggesting your site is about one thing, and links suggesting that your site is about another. And realistically, how can you expect to rank really, really well if you're providing so many mixed signals? So for this medical site, we needed to take some drastic action. And it mildly terrified me as an SEO. We killed off hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of these irrelevant links. So a lot of these were pointing to campaign pages. We 404'd all of them. So we had hundreds of links pointing to 404 pages. Gave me a minor heart attack to do. But we've seen some really good results. And since the August 2024 core updates, this is still a fairly recent project. It's still in progress. Since the August core update, we've seen some really positive results, and consistently the site is seeing more traffic now than it has seen probably in the last 5 years. And this is just one example of how having these irrelevant links pointing to your site can be causing more harm than good, and will create that disconnect between the topics that are showing up in your link profile and the topics that are showing up in your site's content. And being able to fix this mismatch can be a real key to unlocking any further growth that you need. And really, it leads on to say that relevance is one of the best levers that you can pull to make digital PR work harder from an SEO perspective. As was said in the intro, I've worked on both sides. I've worked in digital PR, I've worked in SEO, and we're really keen to get that connection between the two and make digital PR work harder from that SEO perspective. And we should be caring about relevance more than any other metric, more than link numbers, more than DA, DR, number of follow, no follow links, all of the metrics that I know we really hate to report on anyway. But there's of course a problem. The problem with relevance is that it is subjective. What I say is relevant might be different to what you say is relevant. I might think something's relevant on a different day. And of course, we can look at dictionary definitions. So we can say that something is closely related to one another, but there's still that element of subjectivity. And we can look at it at the context of digital PR. So we can say that a brand needs to be creating content that's relevant to its audience, to its products that it offers, the services that it offers, and that this should then be amplified with digital PR. And we can look at it in practice as well. So if we've got on one side the topics that a site is about, and we've got two examples of a link, this top link is going to be the one that's relevant because it's got that alignment with the site's content. And it feels like a fairly basic basic concept to understand. But if I were to end this presentation here and say, cool, care about relevance, go report on it, there'd be minor chaos. There'd be arguments with internal teams, there'd be arguments between clients and agencies, there'd be arguments with one person from one day to the next. Because as I said before, until we've got an objective measure, there's not much of a point talking about it. But when you can understand what relevance really means and how to measure it, once you get that objective measure, you can use digital PR to inform ideation. You can use that data to inform your digital PR ideation. You can identify any relevance mismatches. Perhaps you've got a new product coming out and you're talking about it loads on the website, but your link profile is saying you've actually got nothing to do with that. You can identify any mismatches and work out how to address that. And you can move, finally, beyond reporting on DA and DR as we have wanted to do as an industry for many years. And you can really redefine digital PR KPIs. And we've had some really, really interesting and insightful discussions with clients about what a good link really means to them. They might have digital PR KPIs that were set perhaps 2 years ago, like 50 links a quarter, and they can say, actually, with this new context and with this new information, we don't care about the numbers. We want specifically relevant links or links to a specific topic. And people are going to tell you that there is no way to objectively measure relevance. That is bullshit. So how can you measure link relevance? I feel like I've talked about it a lot of how we get that objective measure. And the answer is natural language understanding. So many years ago, I did a degree which studied computational linguistics. I left uni, thought I'd left it all behind. And boy, was I wrong. Throughout the last year, we've been talking more and more internally about computational linguistics and how we can use natural language understanding to really analyze a site's content and also a site's link profile. So we've been using IBM Watson internally, so natural language understanding platform. And this is the IBM Watson Playground. It's something that is completely free. You can go and visit it online and have a look at yourself, and it will tell you for a specific URL, it can extract the topics, the keywords, the entities that that URL is relevant for. And it will tell you, give you an indication as to how Google and search engines are understanding your site. So let's use an example. This is one of our lovely clients at Digital Loft. Boxed are a boiler company. If we enter their homepage into the IBM Watson Playground, the number one concept, so topic that it extracts is boiler. So we're on the right track. And then there's a lot of other related keywords as well. We also work on digital PR for Boxed. So we get press coverage such as, I'm a boiler expert and these 7 warning signs could cost you thousands. And we can pick out specific pieces of press coverage and run them through the same analysis. And again, we see boiler coming up as one of the most relevant topics to that piece of press coverage. And we can look at these side by side. So we've got the site and also the linking page, and both have shown significant relevance to boilers. I've also shown significant relevance to HVAC, so another highly related term. And when we can see side by side what the relevance communication is between these 2 pages, and we can see that this is indeed a relevant link. And when this is backed up with objective data, so we've got the numerical data here from IBM Watson as to how relevant each page is to each term, it becomes a lot less subjective. And this works at a single page level, so very much a limitation of the IBM Watson Playground, using it as it is. If you were to analyze a whole site and an entire link profile manually, you might be here all day. So we've decided to go one step further at Digital Loft, and we have, I say we, I mean our data scientist, she's there, I did not do this, combined natural language understanding from IBM Watson with site crawls from Screaming Frog and link profile data from Ahrefs to create relevance. You might have heard us shouting about it on the internet quite a lot lately, but this is Digital Loft's solution to the relevance problem that we are seeing within SEO and digital PR at the moment. Now, this is just one solution that can be created. So the real aim of this presentation is to encourage you to go away and do your own explorations into relevance using natural language understanding. But as a bit of inspiration, here is what the relevance report from Digital Loft can tell you. It can tell you, so for an entire site, the topics that that site is relevant for. So again, we've got Boxed as an example. And it will also do this analysis versus your competition. And we will also analyze a link profile and the topics that the link profile is the most relevant for as a whole. And again, we'll see this versus the competition. We'll also be able to identify on a link by link basis whether or not a link is relevant or not relevant. And you can go and see the percentage of relevant links that you've earned. And you can also see this for your competitors as well. So you can set really nice sort of softer KPIs around, okay, we want to have within the next 6 months, 80%, that's a better percentage, 80% of our links are being deemed relevant. And you can say that you want to overtake competitors. You can set goals around relevance. And what it also identifies is the relevance gap. So here we've got all of the topics. It's very similar to the table that we had earlier. So we've got for each topic, the site relevance score. So how frequently is that topic discussed within the site's content? And the link relevance score. So how frequently does that topic come up within the site's link profile? We can also then see the gap, and it will tell you whether or not a gap exists. So as an example here, towards the bottom, we've got a relevance gap for heat pumps. This is a fairly new product. It's mentioned really, really often within the site's content. But when you look at the link profile, we've actually not secured many links around from press coverage that relates to heat pumps. So that can be something that we identify as a target going forward, is to close that relevance gap. And as with all the other metrics, we've got that for competitors as well. So you can use relevance insights to shape your SEO strategy. And if there's a relevance gap for a topic, you can plug that gap by earning more links, or perhaps removing irrelevant ones, as this comes from sort of that percentage of the link profile. And if you've no relevance gap, then you can absolutely keep doing what you're doing. You can open up, like I said before, really, really insightful discussions about what a good link looks like. Maybe it might not just be we want a link from the national press, DR 60 plus, as your sort of benchmark KPI anymore. It might be a lot more nuanced than that. And you can identify where your priority focus should be, whether that needs to be content or links. And it allows you, if you're running sort of that joint SEO and digital PR strategy, to be a lot more fluid in what your focuses are. Now, relevance is often discussed as a digital PR issue, but it's actually intrinsically linked to SEO, and particularly principles such as EEAT. So as our recap, we've got EEAT as experience, expertise, authoritativeness, and trustworthiness. And it's this authoritativeness that really feeds into relevance. So when you start thinking about EEAT as your reputation, it very quickly starts to make a lot more sense. When you consider that reputation is one of the things that influences trust the most, and trust is what makes people spend money and what makes clients happy. So if we consider Google's quality rater guidelines here, it talks about the importance of measuring EEAT. So we'll use authoritativeness as that example here, at a content level, at an author level, and at a brand level, but also using both on-page and off-page factors. And this EEAT, so we're going to continue with authoritativeness here, needs to be displayed on the page, so the content on the website, and off page, so within your link profile. And if you've got that relevancy gap, like we've talked about before, between the topics that your site's content is talking about and the topics that your link profile is suggesting your site is about, it's pretty much impossible to be displaying EEAT effectively. So as that kind of final summary here, link relevance and that real topical alignment between the site's content and your link profile is so incredibly important. And it's something that's going to require collaboration between SEO, digital PR, and internal teams if you're working, for example, as an agency working with a client, to be able to plug any relevance gaps you have and to effectively demonstrate your topical relevance for what you need to be ranking for. That's it from me. Thank you very much.
Monthly reporting making you want to shove sharp things up your nose? Try Dragon Metrics, the all-in-one SEO software with mind-blowing reporting tools.